Across forgotten streets, hidden alleys, and rural backroads of America. Where the past never finished dying. Paint peels like old skin. Windows remain shattered like broken teeth. Rusted doors groan like something breathes behind them. The smell of dust and disinfectant lingers. As if the building still remembers what pain feels like. These clinics were closed after tragedies no one fully explained. Patients disappeared. Staff resigned overnight. Records were shredded. Medicine bottles still sit on counters, caps open, labels faded. Stretchers rest against walls like they were abandoned mid-emergency. Locals refuse to enter. Travelers feel watched before they reach the door. Some swear they hear hospital monitors beeping even though the power was cut decades ago. Others hear doors slamming from deep within the corridors. And a few claim they heard screams echoing down the halls long after they turned and ran. If you stepped into an abandoned clinic at night, and the lights flickered on for just a moment, revealing silhouettes standing in the hallway, would you stay to see who they were? Or would you escape before they noticed you? Take a breath. The halls are waiting. And they are not empty. Hello, my dear friend. I hope you feel safe before we begin. Because where we are going tonight, safety is just a memory. These places once healed the sick, treated the injured, comforted the weak. Now they comfort no one. They wait in silence. They hold their breath. And sometimes, they scream. Abandoned clinics around America sit untouched, yet not unlived. Some were closed after unexplained malfunctions. Others were emptied after storms or fires. A few simply shut their doors without warning, as if everyone decided to leave on the same night and never return. Files scattered. Beds unmade. Clothes still folded in drawers. A sense of something paused, not ended. Visitors report echoes of footsteps that do not belong to the living. Wheelchairs moving at the end of hallways. Curtains drawn by unseen hands. Examination lights flickering above empty tables. And worst of all, screaming that comes from rooms no one dares to open. Some say the clinics remember their last patients. Some say the clinics still try to treat them. Some say the clinics are waiting for new ones. Before we step inside, let me ask you. If you heard a scream echo from an exam room, a scream that sounded like it came from someone you knew, would you open the door, or would you run before whatever waits inside calls your name again? Take a breath, my friend. We are going in. Cold Ward Rural Clinic sits alone at the end of a narrow road in Pennsylvania. Surrounded by empty fields and trees that lean toward the building as if listening. The structure is small, only 1 story tall, made of brick that has faded under decades of wind and rain. The clinic once served farm families and travelers who lived far from town hospitals. Now it sits silent, as though time stopped inside and never resumed. Dust covers the windows like frost. The glass has taken on a cloudy texture, blurring the rooms beyond. In winter, the dust clumps at the corners, forming patterns like ice crystals. Even in the heat of summer, the windows look cold. Visitors approaching the door often swipe their sleeves across the glass, but the smudges reveal little. Only shapes. Only outlines. Only stillness. The front desk still holds sign in sheets. They rest where they were left, edges curled from age. Names fade, but the dates do not. They stop abruptly 30 years ago, as if the last people to enter wrote down their arrival and never recorded their departure. The pens beside the sheets remain, cracked but present, their ink long dried. The names blur like memories too old to place, but the dates maintain their clarity, marking the final day the clinic functioned. The halls smell faintly of antiseptic. Not strong, not harsh, but faint, like a scent preserved in the walls. The floors remain swept, though no one has cleaned them in years. Cabinets line the hall, their doors slightly ajar, as if someone moved through in a hurry and never returned to close them. Examination rooms sit untouched. Chairs remain pulled out, waiting for someone to sit. Blankets lie folded at the ends of beds. Clipboards hang from hooks with paperwork half filled out. Some pages hold only a few lines, as if interrupted mid-sentence. Others contain full charts, neatly written, detailing symptoms and recommendations. These pages feel recent, even though the dates say otherwise. The combination of presence and absence creates a tension, a feeling like the clinic is paused rather than abandoned. At night, visitors hear footsteps running, then stopping suddenly. The sound echoes through the halls, first distant, then closer. It is the sound of shoes striking linoleum, quick and urgent. They begin without warning and end just as abruptly. They simply stop, as though the person halted mid-stride. Stand in silence long enough, and the air changes. The stillness grows heavy. The light in the room seems to shift by degrees. As if filtered through moving clouds. The footsteps return. They start down one hallway, turn a corner, and approach the front desk. They stop outside an examination room and wait. Anyone listening closely can feel the anticipation, like someone holds their breath just beyond sight. Those who follow the sound describe the sensation of being watched, not by eyes, but by attention. The rooms feel occupied, though no figures appear. Curtains sway without breeze. The examination tables creak slightly, their metal frames shifting. Shadows seem to stand where no person stands, taking up space without form. Some visitors claim they saw movement through the glass of the supply room door. Not a figure. A suggestion of motion. Like someone leaning forward, listening. The door never opens. The handle never turns. But the silence after the movement is sharp, as if the clinic itself is waiting. Old medical equipment rests in corners. Blood pressure cuffs, stethoscopes, and carts with wheels that no longer turn smoothly. The metal of the instruments reflects light in dull flashes, like memory trapped in steel. The objects do not rust, despite the age. They remain intact, as if preserved by the same stillness that holds the clinic in place. The objects do not rust, despite the age. Some speak of the day the clinic closed. They say a storm swept through the area, cutting roads with fallen branches and washing out the bridge beyond the fields. No one could reach the clinic, and those inside could not leave. The storm passed, but the clinic never reopened. The staff vanished into silence, and the sign in sheets recorded their last day. Visitors walking room to room find that certain spaces feel colder than others. Not enough to see breath, but enough to raise goosebumps along the arms. These rooms usually contain the most unfinished paperwork, like appointments paused right before treatment. Chairs are angled toward beds. Instruments rest beside pillows. The scene feels like a conversation about to resume. Instruments rest beside pillows. The scene feels like a conversation about to resume. Chairs are angled toward beds. Instruments rest beside pillows. The scene feels like a conversation about to resume. Chairs are angled toward beds. The month is marked with appointment notes, holidays, and reminders. Instruments rest beside pillows. The scene feels like a conversation about to resume. Chairs are angled toward beds. The month is marked with appointment notes, holidays, and reminders. The dates stop just before the entries on the sign in sheets. Instruments rest beside pillows. The scene feels like a conversation about to resume. Chairs are angled toward beds. The month is marked with appointment notes, holidays, and reminders. The dates stop just before the entries on the sign in sheets. One final day circled in pen. If someone stands at the front desk, footsteps begin again. They come down the hall, closer and closer, then stop just before reaching the desk. Silence follows, long and expectant. Turn away, and the footsteps start again, as though encouraging pursuit. The clinic gives the impression of waiting. Waiting for patients who never returned. Waiting for staff who never walked out. Waiting for footsteps to join the ones that still run through the halls, pausing mid-stride. Cold Ward Rural Clinic does not feel abandoned. It feels unfinished. Dust covers the windows like frost. Names fade, but dates do not. The halls carry the scent of antiseptic long after the bottles ran dry. And at night, footsteps run, stopping suddenly. Some say the footsteps wait for yours to follow. Echo Mercy Outpost sits along a forgotten stretch of rural Ohio, hidden behind trees that have grown tall enough to swallow the building from a distance. The structure is small, little more than a clinic and a few adjoining rooms, once intended to serve travelers and residents of nearby farmland. Now the road leading to it is cracked, the paint on the sign has peeled, and weeds push through the soil like roots trying to reclaim what was built. The clinic should feel abandoned. But it does not. The front doors open without force. They do not stick or drag the way old doors should. Inside, the air smells faintly sterile, like alcohol wipes and old paper. Beds remain neatly made in each room, their sheets pulled tight, pillows evenly placed as though awaiting patients. Cabinets are stocked with gauze, bandages, syringes, and bottles of medication that should have expired years ago. But the labels do not fade. The ink remains clear. There is no electricity. The power lines that once fed the building are cut. The wires dangle near the back wall, frayed like something severed them rather than time wearing them down. Yet the lights flicker on. Fluorescent bulbs hum overhead, pulsing in uneven rhythms, casting shadows that stretch long across the floor. No one can explain how the fixtures still glow. No power source exists. No generator hums. The lights simply wake when someone enters. The outpost was built as an emergency clinic decades ago, before larger hospitals took over the region. Its purpose was to help those in crisis. Injured travelers, sick children, and anyone too far from a city to reach care in time. Records show it was staffed with only a few nurses and a single doctor. At some point, the staff disappeared. No announcement was made. No closure notice was filed. The clinic simply stopped being used. Visitors walking the hallways feel like they are interrupting something. Clipboards hang on hooks near each door. Blank patient charts sit ready, pages untouched but waiting. Stretchers remain in perfect alignment against the walls, wheels locked, blankets folded at their feet. The silence feels too controlled, like the building is holding its breath for the next emergency that will never arrive. Then the sound begins. Screams echo through the vents. They travel from room to room, bouncing through metal ducts overhead. The screams are not painful. They are not terrified. They are steady, unbroken, like someone calling for help that will never arrive. The sound is not sharp. It is weary, as if whoever cries out has been doing so for so long that fear has been replaced by routine. The vents rattle as the echoes pass through them. Visitors hear the cries shift direction, as though someone moves through the ducts themselves. Sometimes the sound is distant, muffled by walls and doors. Other times the screams seem to come from directly behind the grate, close enough to feel on the skin. The voice never stops. It never breaks. It continues with the same breathless rhythm, neither rising nor falling in volume. Some say it is not one voice but many, layered so subtly that they blend into a single sound. Some say they hear a breath between the screams, like someone tries to speak but cannot form words. Others claim the voice is not human at all, that it carries no panic, no fear, only a strange sense of endurance. The examination rooms remain staged. Instruments lie ready on trays. Stethoscopes hang neatly from pegs. Cabinets sit open to reveal supplies organized in perfect rows. Not a layer of dust covers them. It is as if someone maintains the building, though no one has seen a caretaker. Footprints do not appear on the tile. Doors do not slam shut. The clinic seems frozen in time, prepared for a patient who never arrived. At the end of the main hallway sits the trauma room. The door remains cracked open, just enough to allow one eye to peer through. The light inside flickers faster than the others, strobing across the white tile like lightning. The room holds a single bed. The straps on the rails remain undone, but they lie neatly arranged, as though never used. The air inside feels colder. The screams grow louder here, no longer echoing but pressing against the ears like the weight of a storm. Some visitors step inside. Others cannot cross the threshold. Those who enter describe the sensation of someone standing beside the trauma bed, though no figure is visible. The air moves. The fabric on the bed indents slightly, like pressure settling on it. The overhead light flashes, bright enough to sting the eyes, then dims into a sickly glow. The intercom system is dead. The panel on the wall holds no power, yet static crackles through it without warning. Once in a while, the static clears. The scream travels through the speaker. The voice does not sound like a plea. It sounds like a reflex. As though help is being called for out of habit, not expectation. Toward the rear of the clinic is the pharmacy room. The door is sealed shut. The handle will not turn. It feels warm to the touch, unlike the rest of the cold building. When ears press against the door, nothing can be heard. The silence is too complete, like the room swallows sound rather than containing it. Some believe the source of the voice lies inside. Others believe the silence behind that door is more dangerous than the screams in the vents. The building never darkens entirely. Even if the lights flicker out, they return again without warning. Beds remain made. Cabinets remain stocked. Lights flicker on without electricity. And the voice continues. Echo Mercy Outpost holds on to something. The memory of patience. The memory of need. The memory of cries that were never answered. A small emergency clinic on a forgotten road, waiting for help that will not come. Screams echo through the vents. Not painful. Not terrified. Just endless. Like someone calling for help that will never arrive. Pinevale Children's Clinic sits at the edge of a quiet main town, surrounded by tall pines that lean close enough to touch the building with their branches. Fog settles here in the mornings and lingers longer than it should, clinging to the windows and drifting through the cracked siding like breath. The clinic has been closed for decades, but it still stands with its lights out and its waiting room frozen in time, as though expecting its next appointment. Inside, toys lie scattered across the waiting room floor. Wooden blocks stacked half-finished. Rubber balls deflated and dusty. A rocking horse frozen mid-motion. Crayons melted into the carpet, their colors smudged into the fibers like spilled paint. Drawings remain taped to the walls, their edges curled but still clinging. Smiling stick figures with houses behind them. Trees. Suns drawn too large. And always, somewhere in the picture, a corner scribbled darker than the rest. The scent of old adhesive and stale air fills the space. The reception desk sits empty, paperwork still scattered across its surface. Clipboards lie open, names faded to blank smudges. The clock above the counter has stopped, the second hand frozen between one moment and the next. The waiting room chairs are arranged neatly, but their cushions bear the impressions of bodies that have not returned. Visitors swear they hear small footsteps running along the tile floors. The sound moves quickly, pattering from one hallway to the next. Too light to be adult feet. Too fast to be casual movement. No voices accompany the steps. Only the rapid tapping, like shoes meant for someone much smaller than the visitors passing through. The examination rooms feel lived in without life. Posters of cartoon animals hang on the walls, their colors faded from age. Cabinets stand cracked open, jars empty, medical tools missing or misplaced. Paper covers on the exam tables are wrinkled but untouched, as if someone prepared them for appointments that never happened. When the footsteps race past the doorway, the machine creaks as though shifting beneath invisible weight. Down the main hallway, the lighting fixtures flicker. The bulbs are long burnt out, but the fixtures still glow faintly from time to time, as if the building remembers how to run electricity. The glow travels from one light to the next. A pulse. A path. Some visitors claim the flickering leads them deeper into the clinic, coaxing them to follow. The playroom door stands slightly open. Inside, the shelves are filled with board games missing pieces. Puzzles rest half completed. Dolls sit propped against the wall, all facing the same direction, like they once watched someone leave and never looked away. A chalkboard takes up the far wall. Words are written there in faded chalk, strokes uneven and broken. They are unreadable, but the placement suggests a message. When someone steps closer to study the marks, the sound of footsteps returns, circling them slowly. Visitors leave quickly, but not fast enough. In the examination wing, charts lie open on desks beside stethoscopes and clipboards. They list patient ages, not names. A corner of the room holds a Childa S jacket, pink and too small for any adult to wear. A chair is pulled out from the desk, angled slightly. Not pushed in. Not forgotten. Interrupted. Some claim to hear voices here. Not full sentences. Not whispers meant to communicate. Sounds like breath shaping into sound. But never choosing words. Soft and close, as if someone stands just behind the shoulder. They look and see only empty air. They describe the sensation of someone waiting to speak. Held between thought and voice. The hall leading to the treatment rooms is lined with height markers on the wall. Handwritten numbers measure growth from 2 feet to 5. Some of the lines are smudged, as if someone erased their own measurement. Near the end of the hall is the isolation room. The door is heavy. The small window is clouded. No light reaches inside. Stepping near it brings silence. The footsteps stop completely. The air thickens, held in place as though sound itself refuses to cross the threshold. No one opens this door. The knob is cold enough to numb fingertips. Some visitors report seeing movement in their peripheral vision. A shadow passing through the waiting room. A small shape at the end of the hall. The swing of a door bouncing slightly as though someone just slipped out of view. But when they turn, nothing stands there. The toys are still. The drawings taped to the wall stare outward with fixed smiles. Others describe leaving the clinic and noticing new drawings taped to the windows as they walk away. Shapes they did not see before. Figures added to group portraits. Shadows scribbled behind children. A small outline standing apart, facing toward the building instead of away from it. The people who visit rarely go back. They leave with the memory of footsteps pacing the tile floors, running, stopping, circling, then fading. They leave with questions they do not speak aloud. No one has seen the source. No one wants to. Pinevale Children's Clinic remains. The toys still lie scattered across the waiting room. Crayons melted on the carpet. Drawings taped to the walls. Visitors swear they hear small footsteps running along the tile floors. No one has seen the source. No one wants to. Brightfield Medical Stop stands on the outskirts of a Kansas highway, a single-floor building meant for emergencies during long rural drives. It once held a small staff, a few patient rooms, and a handful of stretchers for travelers who needed help between towns. The storm that ended its usefulness came without warning, tearing across the fields and striking the building with wind fierce enough to peel back the roof like paper. No repairs came after. Only abandonment. The roof is shattered. Portions of it sag inward. Beams hang at angles that look painful, like broken limbs frozen in mid-fall. Rain enters freely through the torn ceiling, dripping down hallways and pooling across the floors. Debris fills the corridors. Ceiling tiles lie scattered like fallen leaves. Electrical wiring trails down in tangled strands. Cabinets hang open, their contents spilled across the ground, as if someone left in a hurry and never returned. Stretchers remain beneath the collapsed sections, lined up as though waiting for patients. Their wheels are rusted. Sheets lie tangled on top of them. Dust has settled deep into the fabric, undisturbed except by the breeze that slips through the broken windows. Sunlight filters in through gaps in the roof, turning fragments of glass on the floor into flashes of reflected light. The building feels caught between motion and stillness, as if a moment of evacuation has been stretched into years. On dry days, the silence is heavy. Each step echoes louder than it should. The hallways feel longer than their length suggests. Angles bending slightly as if the structure shifts when no one watches. The air smells faintly of antiseptic and rain-soaked wood. Sometimes, when the wind pushes at the broken frames, doors swing gently on their hinges. As if responding to footsteps that are not present. When the rain returns, the building changes. Water gathers in the hallways, spreading into shallow puddles that reflect the ceiling like dim mirrors. Droplets strike the surface and ripple outward, shaking the reflections. The stretchers gleam faintly beneath the shifting light. The rain seems to wake something. The puddles, despite being still moments before, begin to ripple again. Consistently. Repeatedly. Like a pattern. As though someone is walking through them. There are no tracks on the floor. No mud. No footprints. Just the ripples moving ahead, forming small waves that travel across the water. They pause in the doorways. They change direction. They continue down the hallway as if following a path. Some visitors claim the ripples form foot-shaped impressions, not detailed enough to be certain, but just clear enough to suggest a shape. Others insist the ripples respond to them, stopping when they stop, moving when they move. In the old patient rooms, puddles deepen near the beds. The rainwater should simply sit, but instead it trembles like something has brushed against the surface. As if weight has pressed down. The metal frames creak. The puddles ripple again, their surfaces disturbed by steps that leave no trace. The examination wing is the most active. The ripple patterns grow stronger there, spreading outward like circles made from invisible strides. The curtain tracks shift as if pulled by a breeze that does not exist. Medical charts pinned to walls flutter without wind. The reflections in the puddles look wrong, repeating angles that do not match the room. Sometimes visitors see shapes in the reflection. Not detailed faces, not bodies, but dark outlines, tall and unmoving, like shadows that have forgotten what cast them. In the supply wing, the puddles do more than ripple. The puddles slide. Water creeps across the floor in straight lines, turning corners too precisely to be natural. The movement continues until every puddle lies in a perfect line, like a path waiting to be followed. Then the water falls still. But only for a moment. Without warning, the puddles shake again. Ripples break the calm. The sound of water shifts, not from dripping, but from movement. Some visitors swear they hear faint footsteps splashing as though someone is walking down the hallway at full stride. Not running. Not wandering. Purposeful. Walking with direction. Walking with memory. There are theories about what lingers here. Some say it is the storm itself, echoing through the building like thunder trapped in the walls. Others claim the evacuation was incomplete, that someone stayed behind, and their final steps continue through the water. A few believe that whatever walks is not human. That the ripples do not mimic footsteps, but guide them. They say the water knows the way out even if no one else does. Standing in the main entrance, looking down the ruined hallway, the building seems to tilt. The rain outside grows louder. The puddles shift again. The puddles ripple as though waiting for someone to follow. The silence grows thick. The stretchers do not move, but they feel aware. All the while, not a single footprint appears. Brightfield Medical Stop remains abandoned, but not empty. The storm shattered the roof. Debris fills the hallways. Stretchers rest beneath torn ceiling tiles. And when rain hits the building, the puddles ripple as though someone walks through them. No tracks appear on the floor. Silverhand Outpatient Center sits at the end of a quiet road in Virginia, surrounded by tall grass and trees that lean in as though listening. The building is small, a single floor of faded brick and boarded windows, the type of place once used for routine procedures and basic care. Its sign has fallen, resting in weeds, the letters chipped and rusted. Most who pass by assume it has been abandoned for decades. Inside, however, the picture is stranger. Time has not decayed the rooms evenly. Some areas look untouched. Others look as if they were vacated in a hurry. Most who pass by assume it has been abandoned for decades. The front lobby is frozen in place. Clipboards rest on a counter, patient forms half filled. Chairs remain arranged in neat rows, waiting for people who will never return. Dust covers the floor in a thin, undisturbed layer. The air does not smell stale or rotten. It smells clean, unnervingly so, like the building is still being maintained by hands no one can see. Down the hallway, sinks line the walls of examination rooms. Sinks line the walls of examination rooms. Rust stains drip from the basins, streaking downward like old memory. The taps are cold to the touch. No water flows from them, but a faint sound echoes within the pipes. A distant tapping like someone knocking from inside the walls. The operating room at the end of the hall stands perfectly clean. It is too clean. The floor shines. The overhead lights are free of dust. The stainless steel table at the center reflects the ceiling like polished glass. Yet several tools are missing. Metal brackets lie empty where scalpels and clamps should be. Cabinets hang open, drawers pulled halfway with nothing inside. As if someone took everything they needed and left mid-procedure. The air hums with an electrical buzz even though the building has no active power. The lights flicker on their own schedule, illuminating the room in pulses like a heartbeat. Visitors report an atmosphere that changes from room to room. In some areas, the silence is total, heavy, unmoving. In others, it is layered, like quiet voices are stacked on top of each other, murmuring just out of range of comprehension. Standing beneath the ceiling vents, the hum becomes clearer, shaped like sound rather than static. Some claim to hear a voice rise from the hum itself, soft and measured, like someone giving instructions. It does not call out for help. It does not ask questions. It speaks in the tone of command. As if a surgical team once stood here and someone still believes they are assembled. A list of directives. A procedure continued long after the hands that were meant to carry it out are gone. There are rooms with medical charts still pinned to boards, notes written in neat rows. The dates are difficult to read. Some seem recent. Others look older than the building should allow. The patient numbers repeat across charts, as if the same person was recorded again and again through different years. No official record of Silverhand Outpatient Center exists. Searches for its history turn up only fragments. Mentions of a temporary facility. A place used for overflow during a period of sudden need. A location that received funding briefly and then disappeared from documentation. People in surrounding towns recall seeing vehicles parked outside late at night. Some remember hearing generators run long after the building was closed. Others swear the center was never open at all, that it has always stood empty, and whatever memories suggest otherwise do not belong to them. The deeper one walks into the building, the more the environment shifts. The temperature drops. The hum of the vents becomes rhythmic. A person who enters a room from one direction may exit into a hall they do not recognize. The floor slopes in places where the architecture should be flat. The ceiling seems lower the longer someone stands still, as if gravity itself presses inward. In one storage closet, paperwork lies scattered on the floor, stained with the same rust-colored streaks as the sinks. The pages mention procedures without naming them. Preparations without defining purpose. The words are clinical but lack context, like instructions for a task that has always been understood and therefore never questioned. The signature at the bottom of each page is the same. A name no one can trace. Visitors sometimes report a metallic clatter from somewhere beyond the operating room. Tools shifting on trays that no longer exist. Cabinets bumping shut. A wheeled instrument table rolling softly across tile. The sounds do not echo like physical objects. They echo like memory. Some who stand beneath the surgical lights feel the sensation of being observed. A presence behind them. The weight of expectation fills the room, heavy as lead. The voice above mutters again. Instructions for a team that is no longer here. Instructions for hands that are gone. Instructions for a procedure that should not continue, yet does. Rust stains drip along the sinks like old memory. The operating room stands perfectly clean. Tools are missing. And sometimes, under the hum of silence, a voice mutters from the ceiling as if someone still gives instructions to a surgical team that no longer exists. Silverhand Outpatient Center endures. Empty but not abandoned. Silent but not still. Whatever happened here ended on paper. It did not end in practice. Desert Glass Clinic sits isolated in the New Mexico desert, its walls rising from sun-baked earth that cracks in the heat. Once a small medical facility, it has long been abandoned, yet it refuses to fade. The building is made of concrete and glass, though most windows are shattered. The remaining panes glitter in the sun like fragments of ice, scattering light across the empty hallways. The air outside shimmers with heat, but inside, the rooms remain cool, untouched by the passing years. Sunlight hits the broken windows and casts strange reflections on the walls and floors. Dust dances in the rays, creating shapes that shift as if alive. Sometimes a figure appears in these reflections. A shadow in a doorway. A silhouette standing in a hall. But when anyone turns to see, the hallway is empty. The figure never moves until it is unobserved. It waits. Watches. Visitors describe stepping into the lobby and feeling the temperature drop slightly, though the sun beats down through the roof. Light fractures across the floor and walls, creating illusions that make rooms appear longer, corridors stretch further than they should. Every step echoes, sharp in the stillness. Every sound feels amplified, yet swallowed at the same time, as though the building listens before returning any noise. The waiting rooms remain intact, with chairs lined in rows. Dust covers every surface evenly, as though nothing has disturbed it in decades. Medical charts lie stacked on countertops, pages yellowed but readable. Cabinets once filled with supplies remain closed, their contents a mystery. Yet, when sunlight hits certain angles, the reflections create movement that seems too precise to be accidental. Some who walk the hallways report hearing faint whispers. Not words, not phrases. A rustle of sound that might be conversation, or the hum of memory trapped in the air. Doors may creak open. Drawers may shift slightly. Nothing falls. Nothing breaks. Everything remains in its place as if carefully preserved. At the center of the building is the operating theater. The glass here is mostly gone, leaving only the empty frames. Sunlight pours in and glances across stainless steel tables, illuminating them in bright, sharp lines. The reflections are more pronounced here, sharper, and some claim they see more than shadows. Faces appear briefly in the steel and glass, only to vanish when approached. Some say they feel eyes on the back of their neck. The figure is never visible directly, only in the fragments of reflected light. The hallways beyond the operating theater are narrow, lined with shattered glass. Walking carefully, visitors hear the crunch of tiny shards underfoot. Yet the reflections continue to play tricks. A figure may appear behind a corner, in the reflection of a door, or in the glint of broken tiles. Turn, and nothing waits. Look away, and the shape may have shifted closer, lurking in the corner of a reflection, studying silently. The building feels alive in its silence. Wind does not pass through the halls, yet somewhere within, air shifts just enough to disturb dust motes and catch fragments of light. Some claim to feel pressure, a subtle presence brushing past, brushing against awareness rather than skin. It is never threatening. It is always observing, patient and relentless. Those who have spent extended time in the clinic describe strange sensations. They feel watched continuously, not in sudden shocks, but a constant awareness. Sleep becomes difficult. The reflection of light seems to linger longer, forming images that appear only when direct attention is broken. Photographs of the halls often reveal shapes that were never visible to the naked eye, subtle distortions in reflections, silhouettes too precise to be coincidence. Outside, the desert is quiet, stretching endlessly under the sun. The air shimmers. The building is a stark contrast, cool and shadowed. From the edge of the property, light flickers in broken glass like movement, but no one stands at the windows. Travelers passing by sense something unnatural, an awareness in the glass that seems to track their approach. The clinic is not merely abandoned. It is preserved, maintained by the strange rules of light and reflection. The shards of glass, the steel tables, the undisturbed dust all serve as anchors. The figure moves only within these anchors. Never in the open. Never in direct view. It waits. Always watches. Observed only in fragments of what should not contain life. Visitors leave with impressions rather than clear memories. They recall the glint of light on steel. The shimmer of reflection on walls. The feeling of being observed without eyes upon them. The sun continues to strike the windows, sending shapes dancing across the halls. The figure never moves until you turn away. And when you look again, the reflections shift, new shapes waiting, patient, unwavering. Desert Glass Clinic remains, a monument to memory and perception. Shattered windows catch the sun. Dust fills the air. Shadows form in the reflections. A figure waits, always present, always watching. It never moves until no one sees. And in that silence, the clinic continues to observe the living who pass through its halls. Blue Crossway Infirmary stands at the edge of a dense forest in Washington, hidden behind overgrown pines and mist that drifts low to the ground. The building is long abandoned, its windows cracked and boarded, paint peeling from the siding. Inside, the air is thick with the smell of damp floors and old antiseptic. The halls are silent except for the occasional groan of settling wood, yet the emptiness does not feel complete. There is motion here, subtle and deliberate, lingering in the corners. Wheelchairs line the walls of the main corridor. They sit in neat rows, each facing the doors as though anticipating the arrival of someone to guide them forward. The chairs are not overturned, not broken. They wait, aligned and precise, as if they were set up yesterday rather than decades ago. Sometimes, the wheels turn. Slowly. Smoothly. Not with a push, not with the weight of a person. A visitor might hear the soft hiss of rubber on linoleum, a faint metallic squeak. And look to see a chair inch forward a few inches, as if testing the floor. They stop and stare. Nothing stands nearby. No hand guides the movement, and the air is still. Yet the chairs continue, advancing toward the examination rooms deeper inside the building. The waiting rooms are filled with remnants of patients long gone. Beds are stacked with thin, torn sheets. Medical charts lie scattered, their pages yellowed and curling. Others report whispers, words that seem almost formed but vanish before they can be understood. When they look, the hall is empty. No one has entered the infirmary for decades. Doors leading to patient rooms hang ajar. Inside, furniture remains arranged as if in anticipation. For stands tilt slightly, their hooks empty. Rolling carts lean against counters. Charts on walls remain open, listing vitals and medications. Visitors have noted that wheelchairs move closer to these rooms, stopping at the doorway. As if inviting someone inside. Some claim the chairs rotate, facing inward now, waiting for occupants that never appear. The infirmary's hallways are narrow, lined with fluorescent fixtures long burned out. Shadows cling to the corners and archways, thick and unmoving until someone approaches. The moment a visitor steps close, the shadows seem to pulse, stretching along the walls, following the motion of the body. Sometimes the wheelchairs shift as if responding to the presence. A slight nudge forward. A change in direction. The path is always toward the interior of the building. Some describe standing in the main corridor and feeling a pressure at their back. Not heavy, not physical, but noticeable. It follows them as they walk, aligning with their steps. The wheelchairs respond in kind, turning and moving slightly to mirror motion. Those who pause feel the pressure intensify. The chairs inch forward. The chairs inch forward. Visitors report a sudden awareness that they are not entirely alone, that the building itself watches, and waits. The infirmary's treatment rooms hold even stranger impressions. Examination tables are made of metal and vinyl, torn and worn. Instruments rest on counters, covered in dust. Visitors have claimed that if they place a hand on the tables, the wheelchairs move to the center of the room, facing the bed. No one is near them. No push is applied. Yet the wheels rotate, lining up as if preparing to transport someone. Sounds in the infirmary are subtle but constant. The soft squeak of wheels, the faint tap of rubber on linoleum, the shuffle of movement in distant rooms. Whispers curl through the hallways like wind caught in the corners. Doors creak open and closed by themselves. Visitors report that the building seems alive, though no human presence remains. It reacts to attention, to movement, to the curiosity of those who enter. In the cafeteria, trays remain stacked on counters. The floor is lined with chairs, some overturned, some aligned in rows. Visitors often hear the soft rattle of metal rolling along the floor. Chairs move just enough to catch attention before stopping abruptly. The sound draws people forward. Many step away, sensing the invitation carries a weight beyond curiosity. Locals speak in hushed tones about Blue Crossway Infirmary. They warn that the wheelchairs do not need occupants to move. They say the building collects energy, responds to the living, guides them along unseen paths. No one knows who built this mechanism or why it persists, but those who enter feel compelled to obey, to follow the silent guidance. And no one who lingers too long ever walks away the same. Blue Crossway Infirmary endures, long after the last patient has gone. Wheelchairs line the walls like waiting passengers, facing the doors as if ready to roll forward, ready to carry someone deeper inside. Sometimes the wheels turn. Slowly, deliberately. No one pushes them. The building watches. The hallways breathe. And those who enter feel the pull, the invitation, the insistence of motion waiting in silence. Oakrest Mountain Clinic clings to the side of a jagged Colorado cliff, a building perched as if it were part of the rock itself. From the outside, it seems solid enough, a testament to human engineering set against the mountains. Yet beneath the walls, the foundation has cracked. The clinic bears the scars of a rockslide that tore through the slope years ago. Large chunks of stone rest against the base, lodged like broken teeth. The building leans slightly, as though the mountain itself is shifting, pressing against the walls with quiet intent. Inside, the halls tilt sideways. Floors that should be level slope in ways that make walking uncertain. Ceiling tiles droop, misaligned with fluorescent fixtures. Doors swing open unevenly, some catching on warped frames, others sliding past without a sound. Others slide past without a sound. The air is cool and damp, carrying the scent of stone and old timber. Water drips from cracks in the ceiling. At first, it appears ordinary. Tiny droplets falling into puddles on the ground. But the rhythm is precise. Even. Regular. The drops fall in a pattern that mimics a heartbeat. Tapa pausa tapa pause. It is mesmerizing and unsettling. Every step on the tilted floor seems to synchronize with the rhythm, making the building feel alive. Some who have stayed longer claim the heartbeat is not water. They describe a thrum that grows in intensity when the wind shifts, when the sun sets behind the peaks. A pulse that seems to move beneath the stone foundation, traveling up the walls, through the floors, into the rooms. Some say it is listening, waiting for a response. Others believe it is warning, a signal for anyone who has come too close to the edges of the mountain. Patient rooms are the eeriest. Beds sit at slight angles. Equipment leans against walls that do not run straight. Cabinets creak open and shut without touch. Medical instruments rattle quietly when the pulse of dripping water grows louder. Footsteps sound in the hallways even when no one walks. Shadows gather near corners, seeming to shift with the tilt of the floor. They move subtly, never fully into view, always at the edge of perception. The rockslide left more than cracked stone. In some areas, walls have shifted inward, leaving narrow gaps where light does not penetrate. Air circulates through these crevices with a sigh, carrying whispers of sound that resemble words. Some visitors hear murmurs. Others hear nothing, only the faint echo of the heartbeat growing and fading with the dripping water. The sound is patient, deliberate, as if counting time or marking presence. Windows offer views of the canyon below, though they are often distorted by cracks and debris. The cliffs seem alive, reflecting movement that is not there. Trees sway in patterns that match the pulse inside the building. Birds fly past in arcs that mirror the rhythm. Even clouds seem to pause momentarily as though acknowledging the heartbeat of the clinic. It is as if the mountain itself participates in the sound, joining with the water to mark the passage of time. Electrical wires hang slack, some frayed, some severed entirely. Light flickers from broken fixtures during storms or when clouds obscure the sun. The shadows deepen, stretching across tilted floors. The heartbeat seems to respond, slowing when the room darkens, quickening when light returns. Visitors describe a sensation of being measured, the building sensing weight and presence, acknowledging or dismissing each movement within its halls. Staircases are especially unnerving. Steps lean unevenly. The railing tilts at impossible angles. As people ascend or descend, the heartbeat grows louder, sinking with each footfall. Those who linger at the top report seeing the floors ripple subtly, as though the building shifts in response to their hesitation. Rooms seem to tilt toward the gap in the foundation, drawing attention to the fracture as if it were the source of all movement and sound. The clinic has been abandoned for decades. Staff and patients fled after smaller rockslides made entry dangerous. Yet the building endures, precariously balanced on stone and air. Rain amplifies it, dripping from every exposed crevice, filling the halls with the rhythm of life or memory. Wind presses through open windows, bending boards, tugging at the roof, pushing against the water to extend its pulse. Visitors report that after leaving Oakrest Mountain Clinic, the rhythm follows them. In quiet moments, at night, they hear the dripping in their ears. It is faint at first, then grows, a reminder of the building's presence on the cliff. Some claim dreams are filled with tilted hallways, shadows at the corners, and the steady pulse of water falling in perfect sequence. The mountain seems to have impressed itself upon their perception, leaving the building alive in memory if not in form. Oakrest Mountain Clinic is a place caught between stone and air, between abandonment and life. The foundation cracked after the rockslide. The halls tilt sideways. Water drips in perfect rhythm like a heartbeat. Some say the heartbeat is not water. It is older than the building. Older than the storm. Something that listens. Something that waits. Riverbend County Health Stop sits along a quiet backroad in Louisiana, where cypress trees rise like pillars from the surrounding wetlands. The building is low, one story, with walls darkened by humidity and age. The lower floor has been flooded for years, water standing still beneath the cracked tiles and peeling paint. No one remembers when it first filled, only that it has never drained. Rainfalls touch the surface, yet it does not rise or fall noticeably. The water remains, a mirror to the ceiling above. Visitors who enter the building often notice the smell first. Damp, heavy, faintly metallic. The scent hangs in the air, clinging to skin and clothing. Every step echoes softly across the upper floor. But the lower floor offers different sounds. Splashes. Shallow splashes, yet they ring like someone wading through water deep enough to submerge a body. No one can see the source. No one is present. Yet the sound persists. The floor above is intact, but the water below changes the way sound travels. Every drip from a leaky pipe resonates like a hammer against a metal drum. Visitors who lean over railings or staircases see only dark, still water. It appears shallow, but the echoes suggest depth. Something beneath the surface moves, unseen but deliberate, shaping the sound that reaches above. The building itself is preserved strangely. Cabinets hang open, some empty, some containing outdated supplies. Medical charts rest on shelves, yellowed but legible. Equipment that should have been removed long ago remains in place, rusting slightly, yet untouched by flooding. The air upstairs carries a quiet hum, the sound of electricity long gone, replaced by the low resonance of the water below. Some visitors claim they feel it through the soles of their feet, vibrations that rise like a heartbeat from the flooded floor. Walking the lower level is unnerving. The water covers tiles but leaves the tops of chairs and counters dry. The reflection of ceiling lights or moonlight filters through in fractured patterns, creating shifting shadows that appear almost human. Small splashes erupt at intervals, as though someone wades just beyond vision. The ripples travel outward, concentric circles moving toward walls and corners, breaking only when reaching the edges of submerged furniture. Observers sometimes swear that the source moves toward them, though no movement is ever visible. The floodwater interacts with sound in unusual ways. Footsteps along dry surfaces above are echoed below, altered in pitch and intensity. Visitors claim the splashes synchronize with the steps, as if following them across the floor. Others report hearing a second set of splashes, delayed and heavier, suggesting someone or something follows. Yet when they investigate, nothing is there. Some explorers have attempted to wade into the water. They find it shallow enough to stand, barely reaching their knees. Yet every step produces splashes that sound disproportionately deep. The floor beneath shifts slightly, giving the impression of uneven surfaces hidden in darkness. Every attempt to probe the depth with a stick or pole returns the same result. The water seems bottomless in sound but shallow in touch. Some report an unsettling resistance, like pressure against legs, subtle but impossible to measure. Stories from locals describe the building differently. Some remember the health stop operating long ago, serving residents and travelers. Others insist it was always abandoned, a place that grew dark as soon as it was constructed. Those who lived nearby recall hearing water movement long before stepping inside, splashes that did not match rainfall or wind. Children were warned not to venture too close, adults avoided the building entirely. Over time, the river of sound became part of local lore. The building feels alive to those who enter. Not in motion, but in attention. The echoes respond to sound. Footsteps are followed. Voices, even whispers, alter the pattern of ripples. Visitors speaking aloud find the water carries words strangely, stretching or bending them as if translating across a medium that understands without listening. Some swear the splashes imitate them, small movements that correspond exactly to gestures or calls. The experience is brief, but memorable, enough to make one step back and reconsider. At night, the effect intensifies. Moonlight filters through broken windows, reflecting on the water's surface in sharp, white lines. Ripples from unseen sources cross paths with reflections, distorting and warping the patterns. The air carries a low hum, the sound of water vibrating in sympathy with wind and sound. Splashes emerge in rhythm, appearing and disappearing, giving the impression of a presence moving just beneath the surface, circling, waiting, watching. Visitors often feel a pull toward the water, a subtle gravity that tugs at balance, urging them forward. Few dare to approach the edges for more than a glance. Floodwater filled the lower floor and never drained. Visitors hear splashes like someone wades through the darkness. The water is shallow, but the splashes sound deep. No one has ever seen the bottom untouched. No one has ever left the lower floor unchanged. Riverbend County Health Stop endures as a place suspended between depth and surface. Between sound and silence. It is watched. It is listening. And the echoes of movement beneath the water continue long after anyone leaves. Coral Path Urgent Care sits at the edge of a quiet Alabama town, a small building of pale brick and tinted windows that reflect the afternoon sun. The parking lot is cracked and overgrown in places. The sign hangs crooked, swaying slightly in the breeze. But step closer, and the atmosphere shifts. The air feels heavier. The sun seems muted. Silence presses against the building like an invisible wall. The doors swing open on their own. Visitors who approach often find the glass sliding aside before their hand reaches the handle. The movement is slow, deliberate, almost inviting. It gives a sense of control, of being welcomed, yet the emptiness beyond the doors feels deliberate. A faint smell of antiseptic lingers, cleaner than it should be, as if preserved in time. Visitors hear breathing behind them as they walk inside. Not footsteps. Not a shuffle of movement. Just the sound of lungs drawing in air, steady and measured. Sometimes it comes from a single point. Sometimes it echoes along the walls, filling the room with a presence that cannot be seen. People stop and turn, searching for a source, only to find the space empty. The sound follows them down hallways, growing faint and then close again, a rhythm that matches their own heartbeat. Examination tables sit with straps undone, like patients left in a hurry. Sheets hang half over the edge, pillows slanted as if someone had leaned forward abruptly. Medical instruments rest on counters, orderly yet untouched, like a snapshot of care paused mid-procedure. The lights hum softly, not flickering, but steady, casting even illumination across the rooms. The feeling is one of anticipation, of presence that does not move but waits. If someone stays long enough, they hear a calm voice telling them to lie down. It is quiet, soothing, and distant at first, then close enough to be understood. The voice has no clear source. It speaks with certainty, as if guiding someone through a routine. The tone carries comfort, but there is an underlying weight, a suggestion that yielding to it may be necessary. Those who listen often feel an urge to follow, to step toward the nearest table and recline. The hallways are narrow, the linoleum floors clean but scuffed. Clipboards remain on counters, pens poised above forms. The quiet amplifies every small sound, the hum of lights, the distant drip of a faucet, the faint creak of a table under weight that is not your own. The faint creak of a table under weight that is not your own. Some visitors report glimpses of movement in their peripheral vision. Shadows that shift slightly against the walls. Reflections in polished surfaces that do not match their position. The effect is subtle, but persistent, enough to unsettle anyone who lingers. The breathing follows, unwavering, as though the building itself inhales and exhales alongside them. The waiting room feels especially charged. Rows of empty chairs face a reception desk where papers are stacked neatly, as if the staff expects a visitor any moment. The temperature dips here, a faint coolness that moves along the back of the neck. The voice is clearest in this area, inviting, guiding, waiting. It seems aware of the presence of a visitor, adjusting in tone and timing with the slightest movement. The voice is aware of the visitor's presence, adjusting in tone and timing with the slightest movement. Upstairs rooms are no less strange. Beds sit neatly made, instruments positioned at attention. Examination tables await use. The air carries a low hum, a vibration that resonates with the bones of the floor. Visitors walking through report feeling the floorboards shift underfoot, subtle enough to notice only if focused. It is as if the building responds to their movement, adjusting, testing, waiting for compliance. The clinic has no patients, no staff, yet it functions in a strange harmony. Lights remain on. Tools remain arranged. Voices call out only to those who linger. The building is aware of the passage of time but does not acknowledge it. It preserves an eerie equilibrium, balancing between what was once a place of care and what it has become. A space of silent guidance. Those who leave describe the experience as disorienting. The doors close behind them, the lobby empty and unchanged. The breathing fades. The voice is gone. Yet the sensation of being watched lingers, of presence and instruction. Many swear they felt an expectation, awaiting for them to return, to step forward and lie down. Coral Path Urgent Care is more than a building. The doors swing open on their own. Visitors hear breathing behind them as they walk inside. Examination tables sit with straps undone, like patients left in a hurry. If someone stays long enough, they hear a calm voice telling them to lie down. Candlelight Recovery Ward sits at the edge of a quiet Arkansas town, a small brick building surrounded by overgrown shrubs and empty parking spaces. A small brick building surrounded by overgrown shrubs and empty parking spaces. The paint on the walls has faded, and the windows are clouded with age. Yet inside, the building feels alive, as though the care it once offered still moves through the air. Shadows gather along the hallways, but they do not obscure the light. Candles burn inside, though no one places them. The flames are steady, upright, and warm, illuminating hallways and examination rooms with a soft amber glow. They never melt down. They never extinguish. The air smells like smoke and flowers. Not the sharp sting of fire. Not the decay of neglect. The scent is subtle, layering the faint fragrance of wax with a delicate floral note. The combination of warmth and scent gives the impression of a ward prepared for comfort, a place where someone still cares. The smell follows visitors as they move from room to room, lingering near the tables and chairs where patients were once treated. Curtains flutter though there is no breeze. Thin fabric lifts and falls gently, as if moved by invisible hands. They sway in rhythm with the candle's light, casting dancing shadows across the walls and floor. The movement is hypnotic, drawing attention to the quiet corners of each room. It makes the ward feel inhabited, even though no one walks the halls. The sway of the fabric seems intentional, deliberate, as though Samania or Somthinga is observing each visitor's path through the space. Voices whisper near the examination tables, too low to understand, too close to ignore. They are not loud. They do not echo. They hover near the edges of perception, slipping in and out of hearing. Sometimes they seem to circle the room, moving from one table to the next. Other times, the sound lingers near a single bed, hovering just above the mattress. Visitors report leaning closer, only to realize the words cannot be caught. They are fragments, impressions, sounds that suggest presence without form. The examination tables remain arranged as if ready for use. Straps lie undone, sheets drape over the edges, and pillows rest in perfect position. Instruments sit in their places, polished and reflective, untouched yet orderly. Visitors often find themselves drawn toward these tables, their gaze following the lines of the ward as though searching for the source of the whispers. The tables hold an unspoken invitation, a sense that if someone were to lie down, the ward itself would respond. Hallways wind between rooms, each space bathed in the warm glow of candlelight. Doors stand slightly ajar, revealing examination rooms, offices, and small supply closets. In each, the scent of wax and flowers lingers. Shadows shift across the walls, never fully forming, always suggesting motion. The combination of light, scent, and subtle sound creates a sensation of waiting. The building does not rush. It does not move aggressively. It watches and invites. Visitors who pause in the central room often report a sensation of breath on their necks or shoulders, though the air is still. It is not cold. It is not sharp. It is a pressure, a presence, a reminder that the ward is alive in a way that is difficult to describe. The candles reflect off the surfaces, creating pools of light that extend into the corners, chasing shadows back but never fully erasing them. In the storage rooms, instruments and supplies appear as they did decades ago. Syringes, glass bottles, trays of tools, and stacked linens remain organized. The whispers circle these spaces as well, brushing along shelves and counters, fading when attention moves away. As though each object has been positioned for a purpose that continues to exist beyond memory. Some visitors have described moments when the candles seem to lean toward them, their flames stretching as if reaching out. The shadows they cast twist in response, bending around corners and curving along walls. The whispers grow slightly louder in these moments, insistent but not urgent. They suggest observation, awareness, and guidance. A presence that is calm but undeniable. The building feels patient. It does not compel anyone to act. It does not demand attention. Yet the effect is subtle and persistent. The longer someone stays, the more aware they become of the synchronized dance of light, scent, shadow, and sound. The ward seems to encourage stillness and reflection, as though each element is intended to comfort or communicate, but only to those willing to notice. Candlelight Recovery Ward preserves an echo of care. It holds memory, presence, and gentle instruction within its walls. Candles burn inside, though no one places them. They never melt down. They never extinguish. The air smells of smoke and flowers. Curtains flutter though there is no breeze. Voices whisper near the examination tables, too low to understand, too close to ignore. If someone stays long enough, they hear a calm voice telling them to lie down. And the ward waits, patient and eternal, holding its quiet vigil. Over the corridors, the tables, and the unseen watchers that linger between the shadows and the light. The ward waits, patient and eternal, holding its quiet vigil over the corridors, the tables, and the unseen watchers that linger between the shadows and the light. Old Turner Clinic sits abandoned along a quiet stretch of Mississippi Road, tucked between fields that have grown wild with grass and brush. The building is small, once meant to serve the local community as a basic medical facility. Its brick walls are weathered and faded, paint peeling from the door frames. Windows are dusty, but intact, reflecting the sunlight in pale, unsteady glimmers. The roof sags slightly in the middle, evidence of years without maintenance. The air around the clinic feels heavier, as if the building itself holds its breath. Inside, the rooms are frozen in time. Drawers are full of unused syringes, neatly arranged, never disturbed. Cabinets remain stocked with bandages, gauze, and bottles of medication whose labels have faded but remain readable. Tables stand in perfect alignment. The quiet is complete, yet somehow alive. The reception area holds a small brass bell, once used to signal staff when a patient arrived. It rings at odd intervals, though no one touches it. A sharp, clear tone cuts through the silence and reverberates down the hallways. The sound is sudden and unexpected, startling those who hear it. Visitors step cautiously toward it, thinking someone must be nearby. But the hallways remain empty. The echo fades, leaving only the silence behind. Some who enter swear they hear voices calling their names. A low, distant sound first, almost like whine through a cracked window. Gradually becoming clearer. The words are soft, deliberate, and intimate, as though someone knows exactly who stands in the hallway. The voice does not shout, it does not demand. It calls, patient, persistent. Many turn, expecting to see a person, only to find nothing. The hallways remain empty. The rooms remain untouched. The clinic watches in silence. The examination rooms retain instruments and equipment arranged in a way that suggests recent use. Stethoscopes hang from hooks, scales remain in place, and counters are free of dust, as though someone continues to maintain them. Despite this, the building shows no sign of occupancy. No footprints mark the floors. No doors creak from opening or closing. Yet the feeling of being observed is ever present, as though the walls themselves are aware of every movement. The clinic is small, but it feels larger than it should. Hallways bend slightly, corners feel narrower or wider than they appear. And light filters differently in each room. Sunlight through the windows falls in shifting patterns, casting shadows that seem to move independently of the natural progression of the day. Objects occasionally appear shifted, just slightly, as if someone or something rearranged them while no one watched. Visitors often describe an oppressive stillness that grows heavier the longer they remain. The temperature drops in certain rooms, creating pockets of cold that feel unnatural. Breaths become visible even in warm air. The quiet hum of electricity is absent, yet lights occasionally flicker, though the building is not connected to power. Fluorescent bulbs glow faintly before dimming again, as if powered by a source unseen. The effect is disorienting, making one doubt whether the clinic is entirely bound by the physical world. The rooms along the back of the building hold more unsettling details. Patient beds remain made, sheets pulled tight. Chairs sit positioned near counters as if ready to be used. Instruments on trays gleam in the dim light, untouched yet polished. Visitors often report the sensation of hands brushing against their arms, only to find no one nearby. Shadows appear in peripheral vision but vanish when looked at directly. The feeling of being followed, observed, and measured pervades every step through these corridors. Some have attempted to document their visits with cameras or recordings. Equipment frequently malfunctions. Batteries drain rapidly, digital displays flicker, and audio records capture distortions that do not match ambient sounds. Recordings sometimes pick up low, rhythmic thumps, like footsteps pacing slowly in distant hallways. Other times, whispers are recorded where no one spoke. Investigators leave the building unsettled, unsure whether the phenomena are physical, psychological, or something beyond explanation. The clinic is not large, but it holds its mysteries tightly. Visitors do not return once they have spent time inside. Some leave abruptly after hearing a name spoken aloud. Others feel the walls press closer, the quiet grow heavier, and the sense of being observed too intense to remain. The building seems to know, marking each person who enters, ensuring they are remembered. The emergency rooms, the reception, the storage rooms, all appear frozen in their roles, as though ready to serve, yet none will ever arrive. Old Turner Clinic stands as a place between life and memory. Drawers full of unused syringes. The reception bell rings when no one touches it. Shadows stretch in the corners, and whispers ride the stale air. People hear their names called softly, intimately, a voice that waits. It does not shout. It does not threaten. It simply calls, persistent and unending. The building observes every step. The lights flicker without power. The beds remain made. The instruments gleam. The walls remember. And those who enter never return a second time. Hollow Rest Isolation Center sits on a barren ridge in Utah, a cluster of concrete buildings surrounded by dry scrub and jagged cliffs. It was built decades ago to separate the sick from the healthy, a place where contagious patients were removed from towns and townspeople were spared the spread of illness. The walls are tall and gray, windows narrow and barred. The entrance sits at the top of a steep drive, winding through desert stone, as though the building was meant to be out of reach from the very start. Now the center separates the living from the dead. Visitors who approach the facility feel the air change. The doors at the entrance are closed, heavy steel with handles worn from decades of use. They appear locked, but no lock secures them. When someone steps close, the handles jostle as though testing hands. The doors swing open easily, but a subtle tension fills the threshold. Inside, the halls are silent. Linoleum floors stretch for long corridors, scuffed and stained. The walls carry a faint antiseptic smell, faded with time, mixed with dust and the dry desert air seeping through cracked windows. Ceiling lights flicker intermittently. No sound of machinery, no voices, nothing that moves on its own should appear. Yet the doors slam shut behind visitors. Not forcefully, not violently. Softly. The echo carries down the hall, a punctuation to every step. Then, after a pause, the doors unlock by themselves. Visitors often step forward cautiously, noticing the timing. The center seems to decide who may proceed. Some doors remain closed longer than others. Some unlock immediately. The building moves in rhythm with the people inside. A silent judgment rendered in steel and concrete. The rooms are filled with remnants of the patients who once stayed. Beds stand in orderly rows, mattresses stiff and bare. Side tables hold nothing but dust. For poles lean against walls, some tipped, some upright. Charts remain pinned on bulletin boards, faded and curling. They list names, ages, and dates long forgotten, but the records appear untouched by time. Visitors note that the charts sometimes seem rearranged after they pass, as though some Ania or some Thinga has reviewed the list. Footsteps echo in unexpected patterns. Sometimes behind a visitor, sometimes ahead, always just beyond sight. Visitors turn, finding empty corridors, yet the sound persists. The center seems to anticipate movement, creating an awareness that someone is never truly alone. Shadows shift along the walls, moving against the angle of light. No figure ever appears, yet the presence is unmistakable. Treatment rooms hold the heaviest air. Metal cabinets line the walls, their doors ajar, instruments inside polished by decades of inactivity. Some visitors swear the beds shift slightly when they pass, wheels squeaking softly on the linoleum. The sensation is subtle, almost imperceptible, but enough to make the center feel alive. It observes every step, every glance, every hesitation. In some hallways, the fluorescent lights fail completely. The darkness is immediate, heavy. In these areas, visitors hear murmurs, soft at first, rising to faint voices. Not words, not sentences, but tones like someone trying to communicate without language. They carry across the empty hall, passing through walls and floors, touching only those who listen. The effect is disorienting. Many retreat quickly, unwilling to linger. Bathrooms, offices, and waiting areas hold similar impressions. Doors move slightly, cabinets slide open, chairs scrape across floors without wind or human touch. Visitors describe a sensation of being observed from the corners of the room. Sometimes a cold hand brushes across the back of the neck, but when they turn, there is nothing. Only walls and the echo of their own pulse. The far wing of the center is the most unsettling. Doors close on their own, heavy and final. Visitors who pass through report feeling a pressure in the air, a weight that presses against the chest and shoulders. The farther one moves, the stronger the sensation grows. The building seems to test patience, resolve, and courage. Some leave before completing the hall, retreating to the main entrance. Others continue, drawn by curiosity or compulsion, moving through the center with the knowledge that some doors may not reopen. Locals tell stories of those who entered hall arrest and never returned. Not all at once, not violently. They simply did not step back through the doors. Some disappeared into the far wing. Some into rooms they claimed to be familiar. Family members searched and returned empty-handed. The building keeps the living, while the dead remain where the walls remember them. Visitors report seeing new marks on the charts, new names, dates, added where no one should have touched them. Hull Arrest Isolation Center endures as a monument to separation. Not merely of the sick and the healthy, but of presence and absence, life and what lies beyond. Its steel doors judge who may proceed and who must remain. The halls hold echoes that belong to no one alive. Shadows move against the angle of light. Footsteps track paths that never existed. The air itself weighs on the visitor, reminding them of the building's silent authority. Wheelchairs, beds, charts, and empty floors all form part of the mechanism. Doors slam shut and unlock without warning, guiding or forbidding, observing or deciding. The building itself is the caretaker, keeping its own records of those who enter. It holds them gently, without malice, but with inexorable intent. Every step, every pause, every choice is accounted for. Hollow Rest Isolation Center remains. Doors slam shut behind visitors. Then unlock by themselves. The building decides who can leave. It separates the living from the dead, preserving a space where time is frozen and the forgotten are held in quiet observation. The air is thick, the floors echo, and the walls remember. The center waits patiently for the next visitor. And its judgment continues, as it has for decades. Redbridge Aftercare Unit sits at the edge of a small Maryland town, its brick walls weathered and windows streaked with rain. The Red Bridge nearby, once a vital connection across the river, collapsed years ago, taking with it not only vehicles and memories but also the trust the community had placed in the clinic. The clinic remained standing, but the shadow of the collapse lingered. Staff left in waves. Patients were redirected elsewhere. And yet, the building never truly emptied. The waiting area is the first place visitors notice. Chairs are lined in orderly rows, but they do not remain still. Wheelchairs spin slowly, completing rotations without hands to guide them. They move along the polished linoleum with intention, pausing near corners and then continuing in precise arcs. They do not drift. They do not roll down slopes. Every movement is directed, deliberate, measured. Those who watch say the motion is patient, as if the clinic itself is studying them. Groans echo from the hallways. Low, metallic sounds that do not belong to any machinery. They rise from beneath the floorboards and from the ceilings above. Some claim the sound is like someone attempting to lift themselves from the ground, straining against invisible restraints. It moves in waves, sometimes a single groan followed by silence, other times a rolling sequence that fills the waiting area and drifts into corridors. The sound shifts as visitors move, aligning with footsteps and shifting perspectives. It seems aware of observers. Rooms are intact but crooked. Floorboards are slightly tilted, walls leaning imperceptibly. Doors swing without touch, opening just enough to reveal empty spaces beyond, then closing as if the building sighs in response. The clinic smells faintly of disinfectant, mixed with dust that has settled for years. Air vents hiss intermittently, though the ventilation system no longer runs. Shadows gather along the walls, stretching unnaturally in the flicker of broken fluorescent lights. They bend toward the groans, toward the wheelchairs, as if following some invisible conductor. The collapsed Red Bridge casts its own presence. Though gone, its memory lingers in the air. Vehicles that once crossed it, people who relied on it, even the wind that once swept across it, all seem to have left echoes that settle in the clinic. Some visitors report feeling a pull toward the edge of the building closest to where the bridge once stood. Floorboards vibrate subtly. A chair tilts slightly in the direction of the old riverbank. The groans intensify, low and expectant, like the echo of falling steel or snapping beams. The building seems to respond to the absence, filling the space with sound, with movement, with memory. The corridors are narrow, lined with doors to treatment rooms. Many remain locked or jammed, their frames warped by time and neglect. Footsteps echo when no one walks the length of the hall. Sometimes the groaning comes from inside the rooms themselves. Visitors who enter report a low, persistent vibration through the floor, as if something beneath is moving carefully, pacing slowly. The wheelchairs in the hall outside will spin in response, stopping in alignment with the room, almost as if communicating with the unseen presence. Nursesia stations sit abandoned. Papers scatter across countertops, patient charts open to empty forms. Chairs swivel slowly, as if someone had just stood up and left them mid-motion. Power is inconsistent, yet the energy of the building remains. It feels alive, as though the structure itself holds the memory of every person who passed through it. Patients who once visited the clinic spoke of faint whispers in the waiting area. Words half-formed, unintelligible, layered like echoes through time. Some claimed to hear their names, called softly from the hallways. Visitors today report the same sensation. A quiet voice brushing at the edge of hearing, leaving a sense of being observed. Stairs are warped, tilting slightly to one side. Handrails wobble in response to unseen pressure. Hallways shift subtly underfoot. Those who linger notice the wheelchairs align with footsteps, groans pause when they pause, and resume when they resume. The effect is hypnotic, drawing attention, compelling focus on subtle details that might otherwise be ignored. A single visitor can feel the entire clinic turn toward them, bending the environment to its rhythm. Storms heighten the activity. Rain falls hard on the roof, dripping through gaps in the ceiling tiles. Puddles on the floor ripple, not with each drop, but in patterns that match the groaning. Wheelchairs spin faster. Shadows stretch longer. The air vibrates with tension, like the building is holding its breath. Lightning flashes reveal a corridor lined with moving chairs and darkened doorways that seem to shift their placement slightly between glimpses. Observers can feel the weight of absence, the pull of memory, and the motion of a building that refuses to stay empty. Redbridge Aftercare Unit remains abandoned in structure but not in presence. Its history, tied to the bridge collapse, lingers in the air, in the creaking wood, in the wheelchairs spinning with intention. Groans echo like strain from invisible bodies, marking time and space. The clinic is a monument to absence and attention, to movement without origin, to presence without flesh. Visitors leave with the memory of observation, of rhythm, of alignment. The wheelchairs spin. The groans echo. The waiting area responds to movement. The building records each visitor's passage and preserves it in motion and sound. Redbridge Aftercare Unit is more than abandoned. It is alive in the way that silence, shadow, and rhythm can be alive. Eden Fall Family Clinic sits at the edge of an overgrown lot in Oregon, surrounded by dense forest and a tangle of shrubs that have long since claimed the parking area. The building itself is partially hidden beneath ivy and wild growth. Vines creep along the walls, twisting into corners and through broken windows, reaching toward every opening. Sunlight filters through the leaves, casting shifting patterns across the floor. The air is heavy with the scent of earth, damp wood, and wilted flowers that have grown inside rather than outside. The clinic looks as if it has been reclaimed by the forest, and yet it does not feel abandoned. Inside, the corridors are narrow and lined with examination rooms. The walls are cracked, plaster flaking where moisture has gathered. Plants climb along every surface, pushing through gaps in the ceiling and curling around doorframes. The vines move. Not with the casual sway of air, but in small, deliberate motions. They twitch at the edges of vision. They pulse slightly, like veins carrying some unknown sap. Some people say it feels like the building is breathing. The sources of this growth are peculiar. Sinks in examination rooms and patient bathrooms have become points of origin. Where once water flowed, the plants now rise, thick stems and leaves expanding outward from the drains. They stretch toward the ceiling and across floors, pushing aside furniture and medical equipment. The vines pulse in rhythm, a subtle movement that seems alive, almost aware. The water that once fed the sinks now nourishes the plant growth in ways that defy explanation. The pipes and basins remain intact, yet the life emerging from them feels foreign, unnatural, and persistent. In the waiting room, chairs are stacked against walls, covered with creeping ivy. Patient files sit on shelves, pages yellowed and curling, some overtaken entirely by moss and small flowers. Occasionally, a vine will shift and wrap itself around a stack of records, moving in a manner that suggests both curiosity and intent. A faint rustling is ever present, the sound of life within the greenery. For visitors, it is impossible to tell what is plant, what is shadow, and what is something else entirely. The clinic smells strongly of earth, yet hints of decay linger. Walking through the hallways, the pulsing of vines seems to grow stronger. Some stems stretch toward movement, leaning into the path of anyone who ventures further into the building. It is as if the building and its growth are testing intruders, measuring intent or perhaps awareness. Many who enter report the sensation of being observed, though nothing human can be seen. The vines seem to reach subtly, curling in the periphery of vision, recoiling if noticed directly, only to resume motion when attention drifts. Examination rooms are the most intense. Furniture is overturned or half buried under greenery. Countertops and cabinets are cracked open, revealing empty drawers and medical tools that were left in disarray. Plants grow through these openings, coiling around handles and wrapping themselves around metal and plastic. Their pulse is stronger here, noticeable in the subtle vibration felt in the floor underfoot. Those who linger too long report a tingling sensation on the skin, a slight pressure as if the plants are aware of presence nearby. Occasionally, shapes appear among the foliage. Shadows shift in ways that suggest form. Some describe seeing a figure crouched among vines, barely distinguishable from leaves and stems. Others feel the movement before it is seen, a brush of something light, almost fleeting across the ankle or hand. These glimpses are quick, and always gone when one turns fully to investigate. There is no voice. No noise beyond the pulsing of greenery and the occasional snap of stems. The water that nourishes the clinic is unmeasured and uncontained. The sinks overflow in some areas, feeding the plants that climb up and outward. Moisture condenses on windows and drips from ceilings, yet no human has maintained the building for decades. Rain enters through holes in the roof, adding to the humidity and sustaining life. The environment inside seems self-contained, independent of weather outside. Light, temperature, and moisture create a perfect ecosystem where the growth thrives. Visitors often notice that the vines seem stronger when more people are present, stretching toward intruders in subtle, patient movements. Some explorers have attempted to remove pieces of the growth or carry water away. The plants resist in unusual ways. Cut stems curl tightly, recoiling as if in pain or defense. Sections removed from the sinks wilt instantly, losing their subtle pulse. It is as if the clinic itself is tied to the life emerging from its plumbing, each vessel a source of sentience that cannot be separated from its home. Eden Fall Family Clinic is more than a building reclaimed by nature. It is a space transformed, inhabited, and maintained by something beyond ordinary comprehension. The vines pulsing from the sinks, curling through broken windows, and reaching toward every corner suggest an awareness. They move with purpose, yet remain rooted. They feed, grow, and watch. Visitors feel the tension between curiosity and caution. Some leave with nothing more than the impression of movement and scent. Others return with stories of shadowed figures among leaves and the quiet rhythm of life that refuses to end. Plants grew over the building. Vines crawl inside through broken windows. Examination rooms smell like earth and wilted flowers. Something moves in the vines. The plants grew from the sinks. They pulse like veins. Winterline Emergency Wing stands on the edge of a remote Alaskan town, surrounded by snow-covered hills and endless stretches of frozen tundra. The building is isolated, a long structure of steel and concrete, worn by decades of storms and ice. The roads leading to it are rarely cleared, and in winter, visibility often drops to nothing. Those who approach the wing notice a heaviness in the air, a chill that does not come from the wind outside, but from within the building itself. Cold fog fills the corridors. It seeps from the corners of the ceilings and rises from the floors, swirling around the walls like smoke. Each hallway is bathed in pale gray light, the overhead bulbs dimmed by frost that creeps along their edges. The fog muffles sound, making footsteps heavier and voices weaker. It hugs the walls and the doors, wrapping every surface in a damp, icy cloak. Frost clings to doorknobs. The metal glitters under the faint light, sharp and bright against the shadowed corridors. Handles are frozen in place, coated with ice that cracks slightly when touched. Some doors are impossible to open, their mechanisms stiff with cold. Others move, but reluctantly, releasing a soft groan as the hinges strain against the frost. Even the simplest motion carries a reminder of the temperature that never fully dissipates. Beds are covered in thin ice. The sheets are stiff to the touch, shimmering faintly under the overhead lights. Pillows hold frozen impressions of shapes long gone. Some mattresses are layered with frost, creating a surface that crunches softly under weight. It feels alive, as though the ice remembers the pressure of those who once rested there. Visitors who try to sit or lie down report a chill that travels from the bed into their bones, as if the mattress absorbs warmth and keeps it trapped elsewhere. When visitors speak, their breath hangs in the air, but the breath does not come from their mouth. Words form invisible clouds of vapor, drifting in uneven shapes. But beside these, another mist appears, separate and distinct. It curls along the floor, moving with a life of its own. Visitors sense it exhaling slowly, deliberately, matching the rhythm of their own breath. Yet not emanating from their own body. It shifts in density, pressing against the skin like a hand. Brushing over the shoulders, rising to meet the face. Something else exhales beside them. The air grows sharper, biting at the cheeks and throat. The sensation is immediate and unmistakable. It does not scream or attack. It simply exists, sharing the space, filling it with the sound and feel of another life, inhaling and releasing in tandem with the visitor. The corridors are long and winding. Doors line each side, some closed, some cracked open, revealing frozen examination rooms. Equipment sits in place, frosted and still. Chairs and trays remain as though waiting for use. Even the simplest tools glint with a thin layer of ice. The fog swirls around them, bending the light, giving the impression that movement passes across surfaces even when no one is present. Windows are partially frosted over, dimming the pale daylight that seeps in. Shadows stretch unnaturally along walls and floors. The fog alters perception, making hallways seem longer, corners further apart. Sounds carry strangely. A footstep in one room echoes down several others. Voices repeat faintly after they have stopped speaking. The exhaled mist seems to follow the movement, drifting ahead, then settling behind. Visitors describe the sensation of being followed. Not in the typical sense of footsteps or eyes upon them. More like the presence of life nearby, aware and observing. When they pause, the exhaled mist hovers close, waiting. When they move, it glides alongside, always maintaining its proximity. Some report that if they breathe too quickly, it responds with a deeper, colder exhale. The effect is unnerving, intimate, inescapable. Rooms that once held patients are frozen tableaus. Stretchers are lined with frost. Monitors are dark, yet emit a faint vibration when the fog thickens nearby. Charts and clipboards lie in orderly stacks, but the sheets are stiff with ice. Visitors running fingers across the paper feel the surface crackle, and a cold tingle spreads into their fingertips. It is as though the ward itself resists interference, maintaining the shape and memory of those who once passed through. The farther one goes into the wing, the heavier the air becomes. Each breath drawn carries a sense of history, of past patients and staff. The exhaled mist grows more distinct, a companion through the endless corridors. Some rooms are colder than others, and in these, the frost thickens on the floor and walls. Here, the breathing beside a visitor is unmistakable, a presence that mirrors their inhalation, rising and falling in perfect synchronization. Winterline Emergency Wing does not demand fear. It does not shout or scream. Instead, it communicates quietly, through fog, frost, and breath. The candles of memory burn in the corners of every room. The halls hold coldness as a companion. The wing observes, interacts, and waits. Cold fog fills the corridors. Frost clings to doorknobs. Beds are covered in thin ice. When visitors speak, their breath hangs in the air, but the breath does not come from their mouth. Something else exhales beside them, matching the rhythm of life in a space paused between past and present, frozen yet aware, waiting for those who dare to walk its frozen halls. Arcadia Trauma Center sits abandoned at the edge of Georgia, a sprawling complex of brick and steel, overgrown lawns, and cracked pavement. Once a hub of emergency care for the surrounding towns, it has not seen patients or staff in years. Yet the building refuses to fall silent. Its halls echo with memories, and its rooms remain suspended in time, preserved by something beyond human intervention. The windows are grimy, but the glass is intact, reflecting the fading light of day in dull, watery patterns. Inside, the corridors are cold, the air thick with dust and the faint scent of antiseptic. Stretchers remain lined along the hallways as though waiting for patients who will never arrive. Sheets lie folded and clean, wheels locked, instruments arranged on nearby tables. The silence is deep, almost complete, yet alive with the subtle vibrations of the building itself. The trauma center is a place frozen, yet not entirely still. Stretcher wheels squeak in the dark. The sound begins faintly, almost imperceptible, then grows louder as if rolling closer. No staff appear. No patients emerge from the rooms. The stretchers move as if guided, propelled by unseen hands, making their way toward the operating rooms. They glide over linoleum floors, squealing softly, turning corners with precision, stopping at doorways, then continuing as though following a predetermined path. Sometimes the sound stops abruptly. The squeaking ceases without warning, leaving the hallways in an unnatural silence. Visitors describe the sensation as immediate. The absence of movement is heavier than the sound itself. It presses against the skin and seeps into the bones. That is when the presence is felt. Hands brush shoulders lightly, just enough to startle, never gripping, never holding, yet undeniable. A contact that leaves no mark, but raises the hairs on the back of the neck. The operating rooms remain pristine. Surgical tables lie in the center, their metal surfaces polished and reflective. Instruments are neatly arranged, waiting for procedures long cancelled. Lights hang above, some flickering despite no electricity. The air hums softly, as though the building is breathing. Shadows stretch across the walls in unnatural angles. Reflections in steel surfaces hint at movement that does not exist in the room. The stretchers arrive here, pause, then retreat slowly down the hall, reversing their path as if the procedure has concluded and no patient was ever needed. In other parts of the trauma center, rooms used for triage and recovery hold beds neatly made, chairs arranged in precise order, and monitors blinking with life despite being unplugged. The displays emit faint lights and occasional beeps that do not follow any pattern. Visitors report feeling cold drafts in otherwise warm spaces, and the sense of being watched is constant. Shadows cling to corners and crawl along walls, just out of focus, never fully revealing themselves. Some who enter the building speak of hearing voices. Low, indistinct murmurs rise from vents and open doorways. They are not coherent words, more like echoes of conversation, commands, or calls for assistance repeated over and over. Occasionally, a name is spoken. Visitors cannot always identify it, but the sound feels directed, intentional. The voices vanish when approached, leaving only the ambient hum of the building and the squeak of stretchers in the distance. The trauma center's hallways seem longer than they should. Corridors twist slightly, angles of walls misalign in ways unnoticed at first but increasingly apparent as one moves deeper into the building. Rooms appear further apart than the architecture allows. Some doors lead to spaces that seem larger inside than the building could contain. Visitors report sensations of disorientation, as though the building itself shifts subtly to accommodate movement, guiding some rooms toward others and hiding exits in plain sight. Emergency supply closets are filled but untouched. Boxes of gloves, gauze, and sterile instruments remain stacked on shelves, labeled and organized as if the staff left in a hurry. No dust accumulates on the contents. The air here feels thicker, almost charged. Those who open the doors report hearing small scuffs or shuffles, though no one is present. Sometimes the shelves themselves seem to shift, just slightly, as though an unseen hand adjusted their positions. Visitors describe a sense of urgency inside the building, as if procedures are still in progress, though no living person remains. The stretchers continue their rounds, rolling along the floors, pausing, and retreating. The touch on the shoulder occurs at moments of absolute silence, interrupting the stillness and reminding those present that they are not alone. The sensation is fleeting but unforgettable, a physical reminder that the building is aware of each person moving through it. Arcadia Trauma Center is a place where time feels suspended, and the boundaries between past and present blur. The stretchers squeak in the dark, moving as if guided. Lights flicker. Shadows bend. Hands brush shoulders. Voices echo. Every room, every corridor, every surgical suite remains prepared, waiting for a purpose that no longer exists. The building maintains its routines, endlessly and silently, preserving the memory of care, urgency, and human presence. Some visitors leave after brief exploration. Others do not return after their first visit. The pull of the building is subtle but firm. It marks those who enter. It observes their movements. It ensures they remember the sensation, the presence, and the whisper of the stretchers. Arcadia Trauma Center continues its quiet vigilance, maintaining its rituals, and ensuring that no step taken within its walls goes unnoticed. Stretchers roll. Wheels squeak. They move toward the operating rooms, as if guided, as if summoned. That is when hands brush shoulders. And those who feel them never return a second time. Crossbourne Health Pavilion sits on the outskirts of a quiet Texas town, a sprawling complex of brick and glass partially hidden by scrub and mesquite trees. The front doors refuse to open at first. A push against the glass feels met with resistance, as though the building itself is holding them shut. Then, suddenly, the doors swing inward, not with creak or groan, but with a gust of air that rushes past the visitor. The movement is abrupt, startling, as though something inside had been waiting to escape and seize the moment the doors opened. It carries the scent of antiseptic long gone, mixed with dust and something metallic. The movement is abrupt, startling, as though something inside had been waiting to escape and seize the moment the doors opened. Inside, the hallways stretch long and narrow. The walls are lined with rooms that once held patients. Their glass windows cracked and smeared, equipment left in place. Monitors on stands beep rhythmically, though the building has no electricity. The sound echoes down the hall, steady, unnerving. It is a reminder of life that once pulsed here. Heartbeats of machines that no longer measure, yet insist on marking time. Visitors report a sensation of sudden weight pressing down in the chest, a shift in the air around them. The monitors stop abruptly, screens darkening. The beep cuts off as if the building itself is drawing a line beneath the visitor, marking a moment of presence. Footsteps echo in the distance, heavy and slow, yet no one appears. The sound grows closer as the visitor moves forward, then fades without reaching them. Silence fills the space, punctuated only by faint creaks of settling walls and the occasional whistle of wind through broken panes. Rooms along the hall contain relics of the facility's past. Hospital beds remain, sheets stiff and folded, mattresses sunken in places. Four stands lean against walls. Wheelchairs sit in neat rows, their wheels slightly turned as though anticipating movement. Paper charts, stacked and yellowed, rest on counters. Some are open, their contents faded to illegibility. Visitors have noted charts that seem rearranged after passing by, names and dates shifting as though recorded by unseen hands. The waiting areas still bear the mark of daily life. Chairs are lined against walls, some tipped slightly, others upright and arranged. A nurse's station sits in the middle of the hall, counters empty but for dust and fragments of paper. Visitors often report hearing the shuffle of movement behind the station, a brushing sound like someone walking through the hall in bare feet. When they turn, no one is there. Yet the presence lingers, palpable, pressing against the edges of perception. In the treatment wings, the monitors continue their steady rhythm. The visitor reaches the midpoint of the hall. At that moment, all sound ceases. The flatline is absolute. The effect is disorienting. Air seems to thicken. Lights dim imperceptibly. Shadows stretch across the floor in ways that do not align with the windows. It is as though the building pauses, observing each step, assessing each movement, deciding who may proceed and who must turn back. Some visitors describe a pull towards certain rooms, as if the building encourages exploration while simultaneously warning against it. Doors that were closed upon entry swing open slightly as they approach, while others close softly behind, sealing a section off. The pattern is inconsistent. No two visitors experience it the same way. Some hear whispers, faint and urgent, yet incomprehensible. Others feel a cold brush against their arm, or a sudden chill that lingers even in warm hallways. The cafeteria and communal areas bear similar traces of abandonment. Shadows move across the space, out of the corner of the eye, always retreating when looked at directly. The monitors beep softly here as well, maintaining a rhythm only until someone steps into the room, then flatlining without pause. Visitors leave the building in a daze, often replaying the experience in their minds. They describe the sensation of being observed at all times. The hallways are empty, yet they feel alive. The air seems to weigh heavier with each step. The flatline, the gust of air through the doors, the movement of monitors and shadowsa all combine to create a sense that the building is assessing them, cataloging their presence before allowing them to depart. Crossbourne Health Pavilion endures as a structure suspended between memory and decay. Its hallways echo with the rhythm of machines that no longer serve. Shadows that walk without bodies. And air that moves with purpose. Monitors beep in defiance of power. Then flatline at the center of each hall. Wheels turn on their own. Shadows follow silently. The building judges all who enter, choosing who may leave and who remains within the imprint of its walls. The pavilion waits. It listens. It observes. And it persists. Silent Heart Medical Refuge sits atop a small hill in North Carolina, its brick FAA section odd weathered and paint peeling from years of exposure. The windows are intact, but streaked with dust and condensation, as if the building itself has been holding its breath. Inside, the hallways stretch long and empty, floors polished years ago but now dull beneath layers of dust. The air smells faintly of antiseptic, of plastic tubing, and of long-abandoned medicine. It is quiet, so quiet that every footstep echoes like a warning. Heart monitors still sit beside the beds. Their screens glow faintly, green and steady, as if powered not by electricity but by memory. Each monitor emits a soft pulse, a tiny flash that marks time and presence in a place that has none. The beeps are slow, methodical. Some visitors claim they can hear variations in rhythm, subtle shifts that feel like lungs inhaling and exhaling. The sound is intimate, impossible to ignore, filling the room with life even though there is none. The beds are empty. All of them. The sheets lie flat, some folded over once in preparation for patients who never returned. Pillows remain untouched. Gurneys rest along the walls, their wheels locked and angled as if waiting for someone to arrive. Visitors pause in these rooms, listening. Monitors pulse in unison, though no one is connected. Breaths echo faintly beneath the soft hum. And the faint scent of warmth lingers in the air. It is as if the building remembers every occupant, every patient who passed through its doors. And continues to care for them in silence. Hallways are lined with doors that lead to private rooms, examination areas, and treatment spaces. Most doors hang slightly ajar, tilting on worn hinges. The floors creak under weight, but sometimes the creaking happens without anyone walking. Shadows stretch across the walls from windows above, moving with the sun's slow progress across the sky. In dim light, the monitors glow more brightly, reflecting in the polished floors. Occasionally, the sound of a chair sliding or the faint whisper of a sheet brushing against metal can be heard. No one is there. The nurse stations remain intact, with charts stacked and drawers half open. Papers flutter occasionally as if stirred by invisible hands. Visitors who stand near them often feel a pressure in the air, a sensation that someone is observing them, noting their presence. It is not threatening. It is quiet and patient, like a heartbeat hidden in the stillness. In some rooms, stands tilt slightly, as if bowing toward the beds. Oxygen tanks lean against the walls, tubing dangling. Visitors report feeling the rhythm of the monitors in their chest. As though the pulse extends beyond the wires and machinery, reaching out into the hallways and corridors. The sound of breathing grows louder when someone stops moving, subtle but unmistakable, even though the rooms are empty. It is the building itself inhaling and exhaling, carrying memory in its pulse. The cafeteria and common areas are no different. Chairs rest atop tables, cups lie scattered across counters. And the faint scent of coffee remains. Here, the monitors are absent. But the sense of life continues. Footsteps echo when no one walks. And the faint hum of distant machines carries through walls and doors. Windows rattle slightly with the wind. Yet the sound inside is not wind. It is rhythm, repetition, the echo of care continued without hands to administer it. Visitors who linger too long describe a sense of weight pressing at the edges of perception. The rooms appear to shift subtly. A bed might seem closer than it was, a door slightly narrower. Shadows move in ways that do not match the sun, bending around corners as if tracing invisible pathways. Some report hearing quiet conversation, of care, of reassurance. No words are clear, only intonation and rhythm. Stairwells tilt slightly, floors uneven from long years of settling. The faint pulse of monitors carries upward, filling the vertical spaces with sound. Visitors climbing the stairs feel their own heartbeat align with the rhythm, a subconscious mirroring that makes the air feel alive. Each landing resonates with a hum, subtle, steady, as if the building itself has lungs and a pulse that stretches across floors and rooms alike. Even in storage areas, the presence lingers. Shelves hold boxes of supplies long forgotten, their contents untouched but neatly stacked. The air moves slightly, carrying the hum of monitors through hallways into these empty spaces. Visitors sometimes swear they see sheets ripple or see movement where nothing could be. The pulse is stronger here, the rhythm more insistent, a reminder that every part of the clinic is alive with memory. Silent Heart Medical Refuge is a building of echoes, of preserved care, of heartbeat without patient. Heart monitors glow in the dark. Lungs breathe without bodies. Beds remain empty, untouched, awaiting those who will never return. Hallways tilt, shadows bend, and whispers linger in the quiet. Visitors leave with the rhythm following them, a pulse in memory and perception, a reminder that some places do not truly empty. The monitors glow faintly. The pulse continues. The beds remain empty. All of them. The clinic that still screams exists beyond maps, beyond addresses, beyond any record that could explain its presence. People find it only once, often when they are alone, traveling through empty stretches of road or paths that twist through abandoned neighborhoods. The building appears without warning, the kind of structure that seems familiar yet impossible. Its walls are clean and white, pristine against the surrounding decay, and its windows glow with light that pulses gently as though someone works inside, moving from room to room with purpose. Its walls are clean and white, pristine against the surrounding decay, and its windows glow with light that pulses gently as though someone works inside, moving from room to room with purpose. The glow is steady, unwavering, as if the building itself breathes in rhythm with some unseen occupant. From the moment a person notices it, sound begins to reach them. Screaming fills the air. Not shrill with pain, not frantic with fear, but a call. It calls. It searches. It begs for someone to respond. Even those who have never entered feel the weight of attention, the pull of the noise that vibrates through bones and eardrums alike. It does not hurt, but it cannot be ignored. Those who follow the sound describe a compulsion. They are drawn forward, moving along roads and paths they did not intend to take. Sometimes the clinic appears through fog, sometimes through a bend in the trees, sometimes appearing between buildings in abandoned streets. The entrances do not reveal themselves until the person is ready, until the clinic decides they have come far enough. A doorway materializes. A path opens. It is always exact, precise, as though the building waits to be found rather than built. The moment someone steps inside, the screaming stops. Silence drops over the hallways like a physical weight. The echoes vanish as if the air itself swallowed them. The glow from the windows now feels warmer, inviting, the kind of light that encourages movement instead of hesitation. The corridors stretch farther than the exterior would suggest, lined with doors and rooms that hum faintly. Each space is functional, sterile in appearance, like a clinic that exists in perfect readiness, but there is no staff, no patients, no indication that anyone has ever truly been present. The interior has a rhythm of its own. Doors open and close slowly, even when unobserved. Examination tables shift imperceptibly, aligning to the direction of whoever walks past. Instruments rest in trays, polished and unused, yet their presence feels urgent. The air carries a faint metallic scent, and somewhere in the distance, a soft hum persists. It is the pulse of the building, steady and watchful, waiting for the next sound. Visitors report a feeling of being observed from every direction. Eyes cannot be seen, but the weight of attention is unmistakable. When someone pauses, the corridors seem to stretch, bending subtly so the rooms are no longer where they appeared to be moments before. The layout shifts, guiding movement towards certain spaces. Those who follow the hallways feel as if the building itself is alive, adjusting, directing, aware of the presence within. Though the screaming has ceased, the call persists in a quieter, more insistent way. The silence demands response. It waits for breath, for the scrape of shoes, for words. Some visitors feel compelled to speak, whisper, even call out, though they do not know why. Others remain silent, tense and cautious, aware that the building does not rush. It only waits, patient as time itself. Rooms that resemble treatment spaces stretch endlessly, their surfaces spotless yet strangely cold. Chairs remain aligned. Trays hold instruments. Sinks shine, though no water runs. Occasionally, faint sounds emerge, a drawer sliding, a faint cough, a soft shuffle that could be mistaken for the wind. Each noise echoes unnaturally, suggesting someone is present even when no one is visible. The presence is patient, observing, aware, yet it never interacts in a conventional sense. The building adapts to whoever enters. Steps are guided by corridors that adjust subtly. A doorway that appeared in one direction may vanish when approached from another angle, replaced by an empty wall or hallway that did not exist moments before. Light shifts with attention, illuminating only spaces in use, while leaving other areas dim and inaccessible. The building's intelligence is passive, yet undeniable, directing movement while withholding action, until provoked by sound. Those who leave describe the experience as disorienting. Exiting the clinic is simple only if the person maintains motion. If they stop for too long, the hallways twist. Doors vanish. Corridors extend. Time itself seems to stretch inside the space, and the journey back becomes uncertain. The clinic does not trap physically, but it ensures that those who respond to the call remain engaged, caught between silence and expectation. The clinic that still screams does not age. Its walls remain bright, its hallways clean, its instruments untouched. It exists in a state of readiness, eternally prepared for some treatment that never occurs. The screaming outside is not pain, not fear. It is a call. Searching. Begging. The building waits for you to make the next sound. If the clinic calls you, the entrance appears. If you enter, the screaming stops. Then it waits for you to make the next sound. Thank you, my dear friend, for walking these abandoned clinics with me tonight. Medicine once saved lives here. Now the walls remember what could not be saved. The echoes cling to the halls like shadows. The rooms breathe. The lights flicker. The past leans over your shoulder. If you ever pass an old clinic and hear something insidious, do not answer. Do not step through the doors. Do not follow the sound. Because once you enter, the building may not let you leave until it learns what your scream sounds like. Would you dare step into a clinic that still screams? Or would you stay outside and hope whatever calls your name never learns the sound of your footsteps? Rest now. Until our next haunted journey.